Small channels are blowing up on YouTube right now, going from 0 to thousands of subscribers in only a few weeks. And I wanted to crack the code on how they were doing this. So I spent the last month studying small channels that blew up overnight, and I was shocked by what I found. So today I'll reveal a subtle trick to increase your audience retention, why editing your videos can actually hurt your channel's growth, as well as a simple tactic to turn one view into 2, 3, or even 4 views. So when I was starting out on YouTube, I was confused on how to actually grow my channel. My head was full of ideas, and so I would turn on the camera and dish out value the best way I could. Yet something was off. The views were low and nobody was finding my content relatable, and this made me frustrated. So I embarked on a journey to find the solution. And during one of my usual YouTube research sessions, I came across a creator called Alex Hormozi, and this guy blew my mind. So Alex makes videos about business and marketing, and after scanning his channel for a few hours, I was obsessed with his content. I binge watched his YouTube videos and podcast appearances, but one small thing stood out about his content. So you know how most educational videos would just mention the main talking points and then explain them afterwards? So to give you an example, let's say you're watching a video on the best side hustles. They would say something like this:
side hustle idea number 1, dropshipping.
And then they'll start explaining how dropshipping works. Now the problem with this approach is that if there are viewers that have already heard of dropshipping in the past, then they would think, oh no, not this again, this is boring. And then they'll click off. But this is where Alex Hormozi is different. He would never reveal the point straight away, but instead reverse the order of information, where he would first explain the concept and then reveal it afterwards. And Alex does this by telling many stories, and I mean a lot. So rather than just giving standard advice, he always starts out with a story. And the stories work so well because they teach the concept in an interesting way. You may notice that most talking head videos just repeat the same boring ideas over and over again, and you never come away from that content learning anything new. But after watching Alex for a while, I actually noticed that he repeats a lot of his stories. But it didn't matter. Even hearing the story the second time didn't seem to bother me that much. So how do you tell a good story? Well, here are a few steps for creating a good story for your YouTube videos. The first is knowing your audience inside out. So you want to tell a story that speaks directly to your audience. And you do this by including the following: where is the viewer right now, and where does the viewer want to be in the future? And the more specific you can be with the details, the better. Include what your viewers might be thinking, their insecurities, their fears, their goals. And once you've got that down, create a clear narrative. Make sure that the story has a beginning, middle, and end, because the viewer needs to follow and understand the message that you're trying to convey. And lastly, a good story must evoke strong emotion. So other elements like suspense and humor should be included as they engage with your audience on a deeper level. Now, after my eye-opening encounter with Alex, I knew that there was so much more out there. So I searched further to find other channels like his, and I was captivated by this video from a popular channel. And the editing was superb. The cuts and effects were all super impressive. But after watching the 10-minute video, I realized that I hadn't learned anything. Now let's get this straight. Over-editing can increase your audience retention, but the truth is most of your viewers aren't going to turn into actual fans. Take me for instance. I watched that entire video, but I never returned to watch more because there wasn't a connection. Now to be fair, I did revisit the channel to kind of learn the tactics that they were using, but I knew that I wasn't going to learn anything from the actual information itself. So stop being obsessed with editing tricks and trying to optimize your videos for audience retention. I made that mistake with my channel. I was trying out the hyper-edited zoomer faceless video style, and the video just sucked. Which brings me to Sam Sulek. Now I did make a video on him previously, and this guy doesn't edit any of his videos but has managed to grow from 8,000 subscribers to 2.6 million in under a year. He doesn't make thumbnails or use clickbait titles to game the algorithm, yet he's dominating the fitness niche, which is one of the most competitive niches on YouTube, by the way. But the reason Sam does so well is because he's authentic and real. Viewers like his vibe, and because of that, the algorithm is left with no choice. Now don't get me wrong, editing your videos can make it better. You can cut out elements of your story that don't fit in well and focus in on the most captivating parts. But there needs to be substance first, and then the editing can come second. Now connecting emotionally with your audience is a big deal, but this isn't just a challenge for beginners. Big channels struggle with this too. But there's a simple trick I use to allow my viewers to relate to my content more, and I'll be sharing that trick in my weekly newsletter. So click the link in the description to join, where you'll receive new actionable YouTube growth tips every Tuesday. Now this next trick is something I see pro YouTubers use all the time, which can turn one view into 2, 3, or even 4 views. And it's very easy to set up. So one day I'm scrolling on YouTube and I'm looking for tutorials on how to level up my YouTube content, and I come across a channel called Film Booth. It was 6 p.m. at the time, and his channel had me hooked from the get-go. His videos were amazing, and fast forward to 9 p.m. and I hadn't clicked away from his channel. But what did he do to keep me watching for so long? Well, first of all, his content was very helpful, but second, he was using a sneaky trick that made it so that I couldn't help but watch the next video and the next and the next. And you can see how powerful this really is. Remember the last time you watched a Netflix series? You're tired after the episode and you want to go to bed, but a cliffhanger happens at the very end. So now you have to watch the next episode to see what happens next. And before you realize it, you're binge watching the entire season. That's basically what Ed from Film Booth did to me. Every time I got to the end of one of his videos, he said something that forced me to watch another one.
The thing is, even if you do set this up, leaving links in your descriptions will bring in sales, but if you want to book your calendar out for months in advance, you need something else. So click this video next to learn how to set it up and build the tool that will enable you to sell anything you ever produce faster.
You see what he did right there? And if you're a little confused, don't worry. I saw a tweet from his scriptwriter that breaks down how this end screen call to action formula works. So the first step is the transition line. Now, an important rule for this line is that you don't want to make it obvious to the viewer that the video is ending. If the viewer realizes that the video is ending, then off they go. So the ideal way is to transition to the call to action like you're starting a new point. And an easy way to do this is to refer to something that you mentioned earlier in the video. Now, after the transition line, step 2 is to build curiosity so that the viewer wants to watch the next video. And you can do this in many ways, but my favorite way is to create a new problem for the viewer that can only be solved by watching the next video, which takes us onto step 3, which is the call to action line. And this one's easy. Simply direct them to the video that will solve this new problem that they have. And just like that, your viewers will be binge watching your channel. But if you want an example of this CTA in action, then here you go. Now, earlier I mentioned that Sam Selleck went viral on YouTube without editing his videos. But once you look deeper, there's a lot of minor details involved with this strategy. So if you want to see a deep dive into the specifics of his tactics, then check out my video on how Sam Selleck almost broke YouTube.